I'm Shannon Foley Martinez, and I work mentoring people as they leave violent, hate-filled, and dehumanizing spaces. And I work building prevention programming and modules to help people never enter into these spaces in the first place. From the time I was 15 until I was just about 20 years old, I was part of the violent white supremacy movement in the United States of America. I'm 47 years old now, so I have been out of that for, well over 25 years at this point. And because I had always been very open with people about my past and shared, the worst things that I had done and the worst things that had happened to me, which were part of my story, entering in these spaces in the first place, people naturally gravitated to sharing their worst things that had happened to them and that they had done. And people began to reach out to me about their friends or loved ones who were immersed in violence or hate-filled lives. And very organically, I began this role as a mentor of people who are stuck in these spaces or who are trying to get out of them, and for their family and loved ones dealing with the fact that their loved one is is entangled with something so violent and vile. In addition to my own story as a piece of information, that I began to piece together that a very large majority, very nearly all of the stories that I was collecting involved multiple layers of trauma in people's lives. So adverse childhood experiences, small T traumas, and sometimes, oftentimes even big T traumas, sexual assaults, other violence, things like that in their stories. And I began to see how that so overlapped with the things that were necessary to address as I was mentoring people who left, and trying to get to a point where they could begin to, number one, even identify the things that had happened to them as trauma in the first place, and then to be able to begin to process through that trauma in holistic ways. So learning how to not be stuck in the toxic expression and the toxic nature of unprocessed trauma, but begin to be able to apply positive skill sets and healing to those broken parts of them, and begin to learn new ways, so that rather than respond in the way that a brain that is suffering from the toxic effects of unprocessed trauma often responds to the world, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze methodology, like learning how to process things again, like in a more holistic way, and heal, coming from a healed space and a place where the traumas in their lives have been positively integrated, so that rather than destruction, that they can, build and move forward in, constructive ways throughout the world. Working towards, learning, nonviolent communication skills, learning emotional skills, learning how to name and identify the emotions that they're feeling, begin the process of learning how to feel those emotions in their bodies and how that shows up, whether, whether it's, your stomach tightens up or, your body, completely relaxes in relief, trying to integrate that body mind experience of of emotions, identify healthy relationships, and learn new ways of relating to people, boundary setting, learning how to even identify and uphold their personal boundaries that they have for themselves. Helping them even a lot of times to simply learn how to identify the needs that they have, the needs and the wants and wishes and desires that they even have, and helping them learn how to articulate that, whether verbally or through writing. That part of the process is learning how to embrace complexity, where you are not looking to dogmatic and prescriptive ways of being, rather moving away from simplistic thinking and simplistic views of the world to much more like pluralistic and complex views of the world, of the problems that face you, of the people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis. That those things are really kind of like the very line cornerstone of the focus of like skills building for the people with whom I work. I have found that there are definitely some differences with the most pressing needs that males and non-males have as they are leaving. That males tend to need more help building like healthy networks. Like, how do you build like healthy friendships, and what does that look like in terms of masculinity and your views about maybe like the ideal man that were part of your belief system up to this point. Women oftentimes need greater help with the like physical safety and the financial aspect of leaving. That a lot of times that there were relationships that they were involved with while they were still inside these spaces, and that when they leave, that they lose a lot of like economic stability and stuff. Women are involved. That almost everyone who I have mentored has had intimate partner violence and sexual violence as part of their story, not just before they were in, but while they were involved with these groups, and so that is again, like, that's an additional layer of of trauma to have to deal with and cope with. I personally have mentorships involving at this point 6 people who have either come out as gender non-binary since they left and as they're like rehabilitating and reintegrating, or have come out as transgender since leaving. And so I personally think that that is something that we should involve much more study and inquiry around, as this person was really struggling with, with their identity, and understanding how to posit their identity in the world, and if they were filled with shame or or messaging that who they felt like they really were, was bad. That I can understand like how they gravitated towards even groups that are incredibly outspoken about hating the identity that they have come out with after they have left. One of the most powerful mentorships that I've ever had involved having someone come and live with my family for a year and a half. And when they arrived, they were really not okay, that they were not even all the way disaffiliated or disengaged from the spaces that they had been in. And watching this person's transformation over the year and a half that they spent here was such an awesome thing to behold, and watching them become best friends with some of my older children, and just become completely part of our family. In ways, like, I mean, they have since moved on and moved out, and I miss them every single day. That the way that this person brought light into like our home and our family was just an absolute incredible gift to me. And the experience of being able to like take them out into the woods, into the rivers, and to the mountains, and watching how that can transform people's lives, moving them away from, you know, the internet and the constancy of having a signal, and watching all of that heal this person in real time was so transformative and so powerful. One of the things that I think would help is to get the information and the skill set that I have into the training modules of the psychosocial support that already exists in communities. People that already intersect with people who are not thriving. You know, social workers and mental health professionals, and probation officers, and teachers and school administrators, and the people that already are in place. Giving them some of this information about what this looks like, and the support, especially in an ongoing way, that people need as they are rehabilitating and reintegrating. I think looking at this as something that is worthwhile, that it is worth investing in to help people not just like move away from hate and violence and dehumanization, but that it is worth investing in them to help them to fully reintegrate into society in healthy ways. That very often, I know from my personal perspective that the people with whom I work go on to be really awesome humans, and they're really invested in being like bringers of light into the lives around them. And so, like, to me, like, just the idea that it is in fact something that is worth investing in, and that it is worth spending time to do, and also keeps communities safer, right? That if we lead people out of hate and violence, that the communities around those people become immediately safer. I think one of the last thing that I, for me, is messaging and the steadfast belief that every human under the age of 25 who has access to the internet absolutely will collide with these ideas and ideologies and these communities online. That it is 100% guaranteed that our youth will collide with this stuff. And just therefore, like, if we accept that as the baseline, then it's much easier for us to accept. Then we have work we have to do in order to empower young people, and help them to understand how to navigate these online spaces more safely. Just the way we would teach a 2-year-old not to stick their finger in a socket, or a 3-year-old to like look both ways before they cross the street. Like, just assume that our children will absolutely collide with these things, and therefore, like, we will absolutely engage in trying to teach them how to identify and be safe and understand what is happening to them.